Hello, history buffs, time travelers, and scholars. Genghis Khan was one of history's most feared conquerors, known for building an empire that stretched across continents. But his brutal punishment struck terror into anyone who dared oppose him. From horrifying torture methods to clever but cruel tactics, his enemies often faced fates worse than death. Let's uncover the disturbing ways Genghis Khan ensured loyalty and crushed rebellion. The Silver Curse of the Khan. Genghis Khan's reputation for ruthless discipline and brutal punishments was unmatched in history. One story that truly highlights his cruelty is the fate of Inalchuq, a city leader who dared to cross him. After destroying a caravan of 500 Mongol men and rejecting the Khan's peace offering, Inalchuq sealed his doom. Genghis Khan responded with devastating force, razing the city to the ground, exterminating its population, and inflicting a terrifying punishment on the leader. In a display of vengeance, molten silver was poured into Inalchuq's eyes and ears, a horrifying reminder of the Khan's zero tolerance for defiance. The Mongols followed a unique code of honor, refraining from spilling noble blood. Yet their alternative punishments were often far worse. Nobles captured by the Mongols faced slow and agonizing deaths, such as suffocation or even being crushed alive under wooden platforms during victory celebrations. These acts weren't just about revenge, they were strategic. Genghis Khan believed that the terror they inspired would force others to submit without a fight, strengthening his empire with minimal losses. His punishments were brutal lessons to those who dared challenge his authority. From molten silver to inventive methods of execution, the Khan's cruelty ensured that his enemies would never forget his wrath or escape it alive. A brother's fate. Genghis Khan, known in his early years as Temujin, grew up in a world of survival, where loyalty and conflict often clashed. His family's struggles began when their clan abandoned them, leaving Temujin's mother to care for her children alone. With 4 of her own children and 2 stepchildren to feed, every scrap of food became precious, and disputes were inevitable. From a young age, Temujin understood that survival often required ruthless decisions. Food, a necessity for their fragile existence, became a frequent source of conflict, especially between Temujin and his half-brother. Their arguments were fierce, fueled by the harsh conditions of their nomadic life. Despite being close in age, the 2 brothers often found themselves at odds, competing over resources. One day, the simmering tension between them reached its breaking point. After a heated argument over food Temujin had caught, they brought the dispute to their mother. When she sided with his half-brother, Temujin felt betrayed and humiliated. This moment of anger led him to a fateful decision. Temujin, with the help of his younger brother, staged a surprise attack on their unsuspecting half-brother. Using their bows, the brothers killed him. The act was swift, but deliberate, a chilling testament to the young Temujin's ability to make ruthless choices even at a tender age. Their mother was devastated when she discovered what had happened. Her grief and anger were profound, but no action was taken to punish the boys. Perhaps it was the harsh reality of their circumstances, or perhaps it was Temujin's growing dominance within the family. What is clear is that Temujin showed no remorse. To him, the act was not just about anger. It was a necessary step to maintain control and ensure survival in a world where weakness was not tolerated. The grim toll of Genghis Khan, more deaths than Stalin. Genghis Khan's legacy is both fascinating and horrifying, as his reign of conquest left an indelible mark on history. Often remembered for his unparalleled brutality, the scale of his actions is staggering. While Joseph Stalin's regime is linked to around 20 million deaths, historical estimates suggest Genghis Khan was responsible for approximately 40 million, double Stalin's toll. Unlike Stalin, who orchestrated mass death primarily through famine and purges, Genghis Khan annihilated entire empires. His campaigns wiped out entire populations and cultures, leaving no trace of their existence. Cities were razed, civilians slaughtered, and even their heritage erased. For Khan, these numbers were not just a byproduct of war, they were a badge of honor. He frequently boasted of his conquests, using his reputation for cruelty to inspire fear and submission. Yet there was a method to his madness. The Khan believed that fear was a powerful weapon, often offering enemies a chance to surrender and join his empire. He sent envoys ahead of his armies, giving rulers an ultimatum: submit and thrive under Mongol rule or resist and face complete destruction. Those who defied him paid the ultimate price, losing their lives, their people, and their history. While he sometimes preferred to conquer through reputation rather than bloodshed, his mercy had limits. Resistance was met with unrelenting violence, and no amount of defiance went unpunished. The devastation he left in his wake is a chilling reminder of the cost of opposing the great Khan. The archer who became an ally. Genghis Khan's conquests were as legendary as his reputation for unrelenting brutality. However, even the most fearsome ruler could sometimes show surprising wisdom. One of the most fascinating tales of his campaigns involves an archer named Jebi. who transformed from a mortal enemy to one of the Khan's most trusted commanders. During a fierce battle between the Mongols and a rival clan, Genghis Khan found himself in grave danger when an arrow struck his horse. The wound nearly turned the tide against the Mongols, but they rallied, driving their enemies into retreat. All fled except for one brave archer, Jebe, who rode straight into the Khan's camp. Displaying incredible courage, Jebe confessed to shooting the Khan's horse and declared himself ready to face execution for his actions. However, he offered a bold alternative: his loyalty and service if the Khan chose to spare him. Different accounts of the story add their own twists. Some suggest the arrow struck the Khan himself, possibly wounding him, or that it hit his armor. Other versions claim Genghis Khan lied about being hit to preserve his pride, only for Jebe to call him out. Regardless of the specifics, the Khan made an extraordinary decision. He spared the archer. Recognizing Jebe's skill and bravery, Genghis Khan brought him into his ranks, where he quickly rose to become one of the Mongol army's most esteemed commanders. This moment demonstrated the Khan's remarkable ability to value talent and loyalty over vengeance, a trait that helped him build one of history's most formidable empires. This tale is a testament to Genghis Khan's strategic mind. Despite his reputation for merciless slaughter, he understood the power of turning an enemy into an ally, a decision that would ultimately contribute to his unparalleled success. A rival's fiery punishment. The tale of Jamukha. Genghis Khan was infamous for his ruthless tactics, but he was not the only Mongol leader with a penchant for brutality. Before the Khan's unification of the Mongol tribes, a rival leader named Jamukha displayed a level of savagery that even Genghis might have found shocking. Jamukha, once a close ally of Genghis Khan, became one of his fiercest enemies. After a significant victory over his foes, Jamukha orchestrated a horrifying punishment. He captured 70 enemy generals and executed them by boiling them alive in massive cauldrons. While historians debate the precise number of victims, whether it was exactly 70 or a symbolic figure representing many, the sheer barbarity of the act is undeniable. This gruesome spectacle was meant to send a chilling message of dominance. However, such methods were so horrific that they reportedly drove many people to align with Genghis Khan despite his own harsh reputation. Genghis, though equally merciless, seemed to have a preference for more pragmatic and swift execution, such as breaking spines, using molten silver, or mass trampling by horses. The act of boiling alive, however, stands out as particularly grotesque. Not only was it excruciatingly slow, but it also left onlookers in utter horror. European witnesses to similar acts of cruelty were reportedly so disturbed that many fainted at the sight, their senses overwhelmed by the agonizing screams and the horrifying transformation of the human body under such conditions. Religious oppression under Genghis Khan. Despite Genghis Khan's reputation as a leader who sought advice from holy men across various faiths, including Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, and Taoism, his actions revealed a very different side. While some point to his engagement with religious leaders as evidence of a compassionate and open-minded ruler, his policies towards non-Mongolian religions were anything but tolerant. Genghis Khan harbored a particular disdain for Jewish and Muslim practices, openly treating adherents of these faiths as second-class citizens in his vast empire. His rule denied them the freedom to observe their customs and rituals, seeing their refusal to adopt Mongolian ways as a challenge to his authority. One example of this was his prohibition of dietary customs central to these religions. Muslims and Jews, accustomed to preparing their food according to their religious laws, were forbidden from doing so. The Khan mandated that they consume only food prepared by Mongolians, interpreting their resistance as an affront. Muslims were specifically banned from slaughtering sheep in accordance with halal practices, with severe penalties for those caught defying this rule. Similarly, Jewish communities were barred from performing circumcisions, a sacred rite in their tradition. To Genghis Khan, submission to Mongolian customs was a condition of living under his rule. His study of other religions seemed less about fostering understanding and more about exploiting this knowledge to manipulate and control conquered peoples. By suppressing their traditions, the Khan ensured their assimilation into his empire on his terms, reinforcing his absolute authority. Use of captured enemies as human shields. One of the most horrific and brutal tactics employed by Genghis Khan during his conquests was the use of captured enemies as human shields in battle. While the use of prisoners or captured civilians as shields in warfare is not an uncommon historical practice, Genghis Khan perfected this method to a chilling degree, leveraging it as a tool of terror. The strategy was simple but effective. Captured soldiers were forced to fight on the front lines, often at the heart of the battle. Their lives were expendable, and their presence in the conflict was nothing more than a shield for the Mongol troops. Those who fought bravely were sometimes allowed to live and could earn a position in the Mongol army, but those who hesitated or refused were quickly dealt with, usually through execution. This method not only reinforced the fear of the Mongols, but also added an extra layer of psychological warfare, as the captured soldiers knew they were nothing more than disposable pawns in the Khan's grand strategy. Genghis Khan had a sharp eye for selecting individuals who would serve as effective human shields, often choosing those with martial skills or an intense will to survive. On rare occasions, if a captured enemy showed exceptional ability or determination, the Khan would allow them to join his ranks. These men, knowing they faced certain death if they didn't fight, fought with unparalleled desperation. In some cases, the captured soldiers fought desperately in the hopes of securing their survival. For those who succeeded in demonstrating valor and skill, there was a slim chance they could integrate into the Mongol forces, enjoying a respected position. This gave the captured soldiers a very grim incentive. Perform well, and there was a possibility of survival. Fail, and the consequences were fatal. The sacking of Samarkand. The sacking of Samarkand, one of the key moments in Genghis Khan's brutal campaigns, stands as a terrifying example of his military genius and ruthless methods. After leaving the city of Otrar, Genghis Khan and his forces advanced toward the mighty city of Samarkand, the jewel of Central Asia, under the rule of the Khwarezmian Empire. It was a place known for its wealth, culture, and strategic importance, and Genghis Khan was intent on capturing it at any cost. Upon arrival, Genghis Khan faced formidable opposition, as the city was defended by a massive army of over 100,000 soldiers. However, his tactical brilliance allowed him to outmaneuver the defenders. One of his key strategies involved severing the city's water supply, which slowly wore down the defenders, making them more vulnerable to attack. Genghis Khan's patience and strategic thinking eventually allowed him to breach the city walls. The sacking of Samarkand was marked by its sheer brutality. While the exact details of the atrocities committed vary, some reports suggest that pregnant women were targeted during the assault, with harm inflicted on both the mothers and their unborn children. While some may argue that these reports were exaggerated to emphasize Genghis Khan's cruelty, the Mongols were notorious for their merciless treatment of civilians, and such an act could very well have been within the realm of possibility. In his rage, Genghis Khan boldly declared that he was a divine instrument of punishment sent to deliver retribution to the people of Samarkand. His forces showed no mercy, and the destruction was absolute. The city was obliterated, its population decimated, and its once prosperous lands left in ruins. Reports suggest that many of the survivors were displaced, forced to flee their homes, and left without any hope of rebuilding. Genghis Khan's brutal legacy continues to echo through history, forever shaping the fate of empires. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more stories from the dark side of history.